Hi everyone, I am Siva Prasad, working as an associate professor in CSE department, Guntur Engineering College. In this class, we are going to discuss about analyzing the architecture structure in software architecture and design pattern subject. Analyzing the architecture. So you know the architecture. Now, why we need to analyze the architecture? Why we need to analyze the architecture? Before making any task, we need to analyze the things. That means what is the architecture is suitable for the required project or not. If you are able to find the faults at the early stage, its cost will be very less. Almost all the projects will have their own problems, but you should not fear about the problems. You should be calm and composed and to mitigate the problems. Okay. Now you see, analysis lies at the heart of the architecture evaluation, which is the process of determining if an architecture is fit for the purpose. Is it suitable for the project what we have selected? If the architecture is not suitable for the project what we have selected, its cost would be very high. So that's why before converting the requirements into the project, the architect will analyze how much cost it requires, what will be the benefit of using this architecture, what are the consequences using this architecture. Even before completing the architecture phase, the architect has to analyze before developing the software, and even before completing the architecture, the architect has to make an analysis phase, how good this architecture is, how it can help the organization. Everything should be analyzed. You call it as architecture evaluation phase. Just like for example, in the building construction also, before constructing the building, they go for soil testing. If the soil is supporting, then only they will start the building construction. Otherwise they will change the location. So in the same way, the software field also, before starting the project, the architect will have an analytical phase. You call it as architecture evaluation phase. The architects by and large know the effect of their design decisions what will have. So even before making the design also, they will consider what will be the design, what will be the analysis, what are the pros and cons, everything they will be analyzed. So why they are analyzing? To decide whether it solves the given problem or not. If the problem is one and if the solution is other one, it may not be matching. So first they will check whether this architecture is aiming to solve the given problem or not. So if it is fulfilling the requirement, then only they choose the architecture. Otherwise, they will change the architecture as per the user's requirement. Next, compare this architecture with another architecture. Is there any better architecture than the existing architecture? Like that they will verify. If there is any better architecture, so they can change it at the early stage with the minimum cost. But later the changing cost will be very high. Next one, they assess what needs to change in given some project requirements change. The architect will consider the analysis part. What are the users requirements? Do we need to make any changes in the given requirements? That will be analyzed. And last, they will find the problem. So what the problem user is having, that means for what purpose we are going to develop the software. That is the analysis. That's why they need to have analysis phase in the architecture. Simply you call it as analyzing architecture. Why we need to analyze the architecture? Because there is much burden on the architecture. So quality is architecture is the foundation for quality of the project. Architecture is the foundation for quality of the project. But at the same time, quality is not entirely depending upon architecture, but if the architecture going in the wrong direction, if the architecture is going in the wrong direction, completely the project is also going in the wrong direction. So that's why they give much more importance to the architecture evaluation part. An effective technique assess the candidate architecture. What is the suitable architecture? Before making this requirement as a complete blueprint, they will have an analysis phase. Already you know architecture is the blueprint for the software. Before considering the architecture model, they will check whether this architecture model is suitable to handle the problem. For different problems, you have different architectures. Don't think that everywhere we follow the same architecture. Well, you cannot say this architecture is the best for all the things. The architecture changes its strengths depending upon the situation. That means for different problems, we need to have different architectures. Don't get confusion. I will give small example. For example, you want to construct a large building, use towers. So large towers you want to construct. So do you consider the land or not? Definitely will consider what sort of soil it is. So where we can construct. Like that we will choose. That selects the area. Based upon the area, they need to change their architecture. For example, if you want to build your construction in Amaravati, so you will follow one structure. If you want to make the same structure in Vizag, you will follow another structure, because Vizag is having seashore area. The same structure if you want to build in Hyderabad, you will follow different structure. As per my knowledge, constructing the large size towers in Hyderabad is less cost when comparing with Amaravati or Vizag, because in the Hyderabad you have good rock solid area, rock solid land. So the land is very strong. So man, Deccan Platitude antam kada, you know the Deccan Platitude. So automatically the land is very strong. We call it as rock soil. So automatically the depth of the pillar is less, very less. But at the same building, same structure, if you want to construct in the Amaravati, it is nearby Krishna river. Automatically the size of the pillar cost is very high. The same structure, even if you want to construct in the Vizag, that is seashore area, again cost is also high. So that means based upon the area, they are changing their structures. Are you clear? Based upon the area, based upon the budget, they need to choose the architectures. So in the same way, for different software requirements, we need to choose different architectures. Before considering the plan, we need to choose which plan is the better. Once you choose the plan, once you have decided for a plan, you need to stick on for that plan. You need to work according to that plan. So that's why before making the project as accepted as it as a blueprint, you need to make an analysis part. So if you are not finding the error at early stage, cost will be very high. For that, there are different methods. You have different architecture methods like atom, C-bomb. Like that, we can use it for architecture evaluation. What is the cost? What will be the risk? How to mitigate it? All those things we need to analyze. So if you are able to find the error at the beginning stage, changing cost will be very less. But if you find the error at last, cost will be very high, incredible. So it is almost cost effective to evaluate software qualities as early as possible, because making changes to the program at the early stage is easier when comparing with the final stage or after delivering stage. For example, you consider you want to make some small change, you want to use one variable data type instead of another variable. For example, you have declared it as integer data type variable, but you need to consider it as float data type. If it is at the beginning of the writing the program, simply we write float instead of int, that is okay. But after completion of the program, if you want to change the data type of that particular variable, it is very difficult because you need to find where the variable is declared. Based upon that variable, what are the calculations you have performed. Everywhere you need to identify. It is a lengthy process. So that means making a changes at the late stage is costlier. It is very difficult, tedious when comparing with the early detection of the error. So that's why early detection of the error reduces the cost. For example, if you want to construct a building in your own space, okay, at the beginning, okay, you have one plan, but by mistake, that worker has made a pillar in the wrong position. So they need to make it at X position, but they have moved 2 steps into the other next site area, others flat area. If you are able to find at the time of digging the hole, okay, cost will be only 1000 or 2000. But the same mistake you have entered into your neighbor flat area. 2 feet you have entered into your neighbor flat area. If you are able to find at the time of digging the hole, at the time of starting the pillar, the cost will be very less. But the same thing if you find after constructing the building, so the changing cost, that means you need to demolish the entire building or you need to modify the entire building. So cost will be very high. Both the times you have found the error. But if you find the error at the beginning stage, its cost will be very less. But if you find at the late stage, where whatever the late you are making, proportionately you are increasing its cost, increasing its consequences also. So software quality cannot be happened late in a project. That means you're making modifications in the software at late stage is not impossible, but very costliest FIR. So better find the error at the beginning stage. To find that error, we are conducting the architecture analysis phase, architecture evaluation phase. So there are some 6 benefits for this architectural analytical phase. First one is financial. Yes, any organization, project cost is the main criteria. So if you are able to detect the error at early stage, it is going to reduce the cost. It is damn sure. Like I have given the building examples like that. You know, if you are able to find the error at the early stage, automatically cost is very less. Just you consider one example. So early architectural analysis of an electronic fund transfer system showed 50 billion transfer capacity per night, like a Paytm, PayPal, like that, one fund transfer company. As per the architecture, they said that they are able to conduct 50 billion dollars with overnight, within one night, which was only half of the desired capacity. But at the time of testing, before conducting the project, they have tested this based upon the conditions they have given. So they found that it is able to transfer only $25 billion. So the company have stopped the project before building it. So it is very important to conduct early analysis phase. Simply you call it as evaluation. Second point is forced preparation for the review. Generally review in the sense of our people thinking is just it is conducted, a nominal process conducted after completion. But we are conducting preparation review, pre-review, before delivering the project, even before accepting the architecture. We are conducting the reviews, pre-reviews. It must be documented in the architecture. That system do not an architecture that is understandable all developers. So the pre-architecture evaluation will be compared with the existing architecture. If you are able to find the error, okay, they are able to rectify it. But if you are if the pre-analysis is giving correct response, then only they are moving ahead. If they found any mistakes at the time of pre-evaluation, compulsory, mandatory, forced pre-evaluation of the project, if they are able to find the error, there are two ways. One is to change the architecture, and another one is change the project. Okay, next one, captured rationally. You need to capture the information without any partiality. Capturing it is a presented in architecture evaluation makes invaluable information available for later use. You need to gather all the relevant information without any other issues. So with respect to success of the project, they need to capture the relevant information. They need to include it in the documentation part. So they need to they need to identify what is the important information, and they need to collect that, and it should be documented for later use. Early detection of the problems. So with the existing architecture, the earlier in the life that the problems are detected, the cheaper it is to fix them. If you are able to find the error at the early stage, you are able to rectify it. For example, if you are able to find that COVID symptoms at the beginning stage with a little bit cough and little bit cold and with a little bit lack of smell sense like that, if you are able to find at the early stage, okay, by using little bit medicine or some home isolation, you are able to rectify that COVID problem. But if you are unable to find at early stage, if you have got any major issues, then that is that hospital treatment cost is very high. Sometimes there is a chance of life risk also. You know this in the COVID scenario. So before occurring the problem only, you are checking the symptoms. Like that, before making the architecture, we need to make an analysis. That's why early detection of the problem reduces the cost, reduces the disinfections. Next, validation of the requirements. Whatever the requirements they have given at the given by the user, that should be validated whether these requirements are useful requirements or not. How far we are able to fulfill these requirements. So we should have a open discussions. We need to analyze, we need to consider. It is like a debate. So what are the requirements they have given, why they have given, what for what purpose they have given these requirements. All those requirements should be analyzed carefully. Otherwise, unnecessarily you are giving the requirements, but sometimes you may be forgetting the wanted requirements. So that you are able to uncover the conflicts and trade-offs, what requirements you need to keep and what requirements you need to drop. That should be negotiated based upon the priorities. So that is very, very important one. You need to have a healthy debate, healthy discussion over the requirements. Next one, last one, improved architectures. By analyzing all the requirements, like what are the requirements, what are the cost constraints, which our structure is better. By analyzing all those things, we are trying to improve the quality of the project. So in the which the evaluation standard part of the development process report an improvement in the quality of the project. So its purpose is anticipate the questions that will be asked. That means before developing the project and before making the architecture, we are building the persons, developing the persons with good quality. So that we are able to increase the human resources, the persons who are authenticately, confidently can speak about the project and can communicate with the customers, clients, can discuss with the stakeholders in an authentication manner. That's why we need to have a good debates, good discussion on the choosing project structures or choosing architecture structure. If you are not discussing on it, it is very difficult to speak on that. We depend only on one architect. But if you are able to conduct the discussions, debates on the architect, pre-evaluation of the architect, automatically remaining people also, that means potential people also, will get some focus on that. Even in the absence of the architect, we are able to communicate with others in a better manner. So next one, the successful evaluation will have the following properties. So what evaluation we can call it as a proper good evaluation. So clearly it should be clearly articulate the goals and requirements of the architecture. It should have controlled scope. Next one is cost effective. This is very, very important in the current scenario. It should reduce the cost. At the same time, it should not compromise with the features. Next one is key personal availability. As in the last phase we have discussed, as we have conducted number of debates and discussions over the architecture, so even one person is not available, one person particularly one on that particular day, one person, for example, the architect is absent on that day, still you need not to worry about that architect person, because remaining people also got some information, some knowledge on that architect. So confidently remaining people also able to speak on that, or they are able to continue the project. So that's why you need to have good number of discussions, negotiations on the architect. Next, competent evaluation. It is not evaluated by one person, or it is not evaluated within one room. We have conducted number of debates, seminars before choosing that architecture. So we can get a number of suggestions from the people, and now if as it is open for number of people, even you are unable to find the errors, other people are also able to find the errors. Competent evaluation. So for this, based upon this concept only, Google Chrome has conducted one competition like scenario. You cannot say exactly competition. If anyone is able to, if anyone is able to hack Google Chrome, so Google company is going to give good reward for the person. It is in terms of crores. I didn't remember the number exactly. That means they can test themselves, but even though they are testing themselves, they may not be able to find the errors exactly. But if they have given the open challenge to the public, so if any competent people is able to break that Google Chrome, that means they can assume that okay, there are some faults in the Chrome that they are going to modify. So it is one way of conducting the testing, especially in the cyber security. They give open challenges. If anyone is able to crack that software security, that means it is having some pitfalls. So they are able to fill the gaps. So without making much budget, they are able to conducting like this. Last one is managed expectation. Every project will have their own expectations. The expectations can be reached by conducting the pre-evaluation. Okay. Its controlled scope already we have discussed. Cost effectiveness, sponsorship, what is the cost and what type of description we need to have. Key personal availability. So imperative success of the time. Architect, at least someone who can speak authenticately about the system. Competent evaluation, we are able to evaluate it in a proper manner. Managed expectations. Other next one, we discuss these methods in the next video. Thank you.